Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Okay, Dave, that's it. Screw you and your college flunkies. I've had enough of this from you and from everyone else. I know what you guys are trying to do. Break me down, drive me out of the force. Well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a lame prank like this to get Curtis Mooney to throw in his badge, so fuck you. Over.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and here I have another review for you, this time of the fifth feature film of Robert Rodriguez's, which he'd done El Mariachi in 1992, which was definitely an underground cult hit. Desperado, its sequel in 1995. From Dusk Till Dawn in 1996. And we had Road Racers, a TV movie in 1994, which was before Desperado. So, the movie that I wanted to go on about is called The Faculty. And I guess this is kind of nostalgia because I really I would have to say I really got Casey in the whole cast of things. Casey was me in high school. I was very much made fun of in high school, and a lot of kids wanted to treat me the same way that they did. I mean, I never got my legs into a flagpole like he did, but high school years were very much abusive, and the abuse of power of students was very heavily not in control of what teachers could and could not do. Many high schools do not turn a blind eye to some of the abuse that goes on, and more or less just stick you in a room with each other for punishments. I mean, my God. But in any case, we have an interesting cast of characters. I mean, we have Jordana Brewster, who eventually went on to play Maya in the Fast and the Furious series. We got Clea Duvall, who later on went on to star in American Horror Story, and Identity, Ghost of Mars, Argo. These are some of the films that she graced. Passengers. Uh, but also we have Laura Harris, who went on to become Daisy Adair in Showtime's Dead Like Me series. Um, and she was definitely in some sci-fi stuff. Merlin in the Book of Beasts as Evelyn, Snowmageddon as Beth Miller. Uh, so definitely, I mean, she was in Dead Zone, 24. So an interesting bout of television series. Outer Limits. But one thing I found that was interesting is that she was in the original Stephen King It miniseries as Loney. I think she was one of the kids that disappeared. But other than that, I mean, we got Josh Hartnett. This was when Josh Hartnett became like the. I remember a lot of chicks digging him after this movie. And this was before he even was in Pearl Harbor. So it's definitely interesting to say the least. We got Sean Hattasey, which I believe he might have actually been in Alpha Dog, Animal Kingdom. I believe it was in Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call in New Orleans. Although some people thought that that was a bad movie. Public Enemies as Agent John Medalla. Um, the Lazarus Project as Ricky Garvey. He was on Numbers for a couple of episodes as Dwayne Carter. So there were a lot of um, interesting things that he was in. Entangled, he was David Klein, John Q, he was Mitch. But I will remember him in a movie called The Joyriders. Um, and I think that's about it. So I mean, but also we have Usher, uh, who played one of the football uh, characters in here, Selma Hayek, who played Nurse Rosa Harper. We have Famke Janssen, who starred as Jean Grey, also known as Phoenix, in the X-Men series. She was also Xenia Onatop in Goldeneye. She also played Evelyn in the remake of House on Haunted Hill. So there were a lot of different. I mean, she was in Hemlock Grove. She was in Jack of the Red Heart. She was in Taken 3, Taken 2, and Taken 1 as, I believe, the wife. Um, she was in a movie called The 10. She was in the I Spy remake. She was in Don't Say a Word. I mean, there are many different. I mean, she was in Rounders, The Gingerbread Man. But in any case, shortly after this is when um, she really started to happen. So, but she plays a interesting two-sided coin character in here as Miss Elizabeth Burke. Piper Laurie, um, that's Mrs. Karen Olsen. Um, Piper Laurie, she was in Twin Peaks. She was Margaret White in Carrie. She played Sarah Packard in The Hustler. I mean, she was a lot of years in the 1950s, an actress. She was in The Golden Blade, Son of Alibaba, Johnny Dark, Dangerous Mission, Smoke Signal, Dawn at Socorro. Um, you know, films of that nature. Francis Goes to the Races, The Prince Who Was a Thief, No Room for the Groom, The Milkman, Louisa. So definitely has, and as she was in The Thornbirds as Anne Mueller, um, St. Elsewhere. She was in Return to Oz as Auntie M. So, I mean, she was in the 1980s Twilight Zone um, series. She was in Children of the Lesser Gods. I mean, these were things that were part of my viewing privileges, you know? So, it was definitely an interesting cast of characters. We got Christopher McDonald, Bebe Neuwirth, who I believe she played in Jumanji as the aunt. Um, Robert Patrick, who was in Terminator 2. Usher Raymond. Jon Stewart, who went on to become part of The Daily Show, which was a political thing. Daniel Von Bergen as Mr. John Tate, and of course a very young Elijah Wood who played Casey Connor, who eventually went on to be in a remake of Maniac, and he starred as Frodo Baggins in Lord of the Rings. So the film, first of all, I love the soundtrack to this. It's got The Kids Aren't Alright by The Offspring. It's got Another Brick and Wall parts 1 and 2, which were redone by a band called Class of '99. Helpless. It's got a remake song of a David Bowie song called Changes. So I just wanted to get that out of the way right away. But we have a new girl coming. In the very beginning, we see that Stan, who is played by Sean Hatosi. He doesn't really have his mind on the football game that's going on. Coach gets mad at him, and he pretty much tells him if he doesn't have his head get his head out of the clouds, he can just get off this fucking team. Little does everyone know he's about to change his mind about being a football star. Wants to focus on his academics. Um, uh, then we got KC, who's kind of a loner. Doesn't really have many friends. He's picked on at school, but he kind of is the school newspaper photographer, and he has the hots for Delilah Prophet, who is going out with the school quarterback, who just so happens to be Stan Rosato. Um, and Delilah Prophet is played by Jordana Brewster. Um, she's pretty, but Casey has the hots for her. Kind of always has. And then we got Josh Hartnett, who seems to be the local bag boy. He shows up in a GTO, and he's kind of like your local drug dealer, but he's kind of like your older kid that has keeps coming back every year, even though he could be smart enough to finish high school. His name is Zeke Tyler. Then we got Clea Duvall, who plays Stokely, otherwise known as Stokes Mitchell, who kind of comes off as like a loner as well, where she's in her own little world, and she reads all these science fiction novels, and is supposedly known as a lesbian. So it's real interesting when a newcomer to the school by the name of Mary Beth Louise Hutchinson, um, seems to be drawn to Stokes, and this group of um, miscast misfits who seem to band together when they realize that their teachers are changing and turning the students into what they consider aliens. And I do believe that this film is heavily influenced by the Body Snatchers, but it has its own element of alienism and it goes through a lot of tropes, like the tropes of high school. If you look at the surroundings of the high school, there are some very abusive things going on. Outside the school, before Casey even goes into the school, there is a fight between two girls. They're beating the fuck out of each other. And then, of course, you got a couple that seems to be walking out of the school every single day at school. They're all and the guy is getting shit beat out of him for no fucking a reason. It looks like. I mean, it might be just because he's got some infidelity issues or whatnot. But the things like this you notice, and then when the students start being turned, you start to notice some of the behaviors of the students become a little bit different, and everyone starts looking at them like they're the outsiders instead of the other way around. So Casey ends up finding this thing on the field, which he brings into his professor, who the professor Edward Furlong. He's acted by Jon Stewart, and he basically says that it might actually be a new species. And through some kind of an accident, Stokes gets knocks over a glass of water, and the creature starts to move. So the professor brings it over by this glass tank, and it shoots out these like tentacles. And then when he tries to check its prostate or whatnot, he ends up getting bitten, but also you see the creature multiply. It replicated itself, and uh, that's when they start to realize that um, evidently there are aliens being uh, taking over the school, and but we don't really entirely realize all that until Zeke ends up coming in with a bunch. Uh, I love this movie. You get Hyde, who ends up showing up. Hyde from that '70s show. He shows up as one of the kids who are buying the drugs from Zeke, which relatively 2 years later he was starring in Dracula 2000. So you have that aspect. And the other aspect is that once Miss Burke changes, uh, I love how Famke Janssen can play the very demure, very shy, um, very sexual teacher, because she really got the hots for Zeke. You could tell that she does. And then when she turns into this badass, foul mouthed teacher, where she's like the the Hyde to the Jekyll of Miss Burke, and she doesn't take any shit, um, but she's very much more confident as the alien or whatnot, and but in any case, the film becomes almost kind of a whodunit kind of a thing, because then they stop trusting each other. They don't know exactly who is an alien and who isn't. So it just so happens that Zeke has made this homemade scat that apparently seems to um, take effect on the um, people that are infected by this so-called parasite, and so they end up testing themselves and finding out that one or more of them is not who they say they are, and then of course we eventually found out who the mother of all of these creatures is, and I love the effects in here. I mean, you got the effects of the creature while it's in the glass. You got that moment where the coach and the rest of the team are in the sun, and their faces are open, and you can see the alien leviathan teeth that are in his face and whatnot. It's definitely creepy. I mean, the very beginning is also somewhat creepy. They stab the shit out of the principal, um, and there's a pencil that the coach stabs into her hand. It goes all the way through, and you kind of have to wince at that point. And then of course, you got that classic. Please report to the principal's office. Uh, 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 please, Miss Strike. Please report to the principal's office. So, but in any case, I would have to say that the movie is very quotable. Um, I love the different, like I said, effects of the creatures, the enormous strength that once you're taken, and uh, you see the effects on the face, um, and so on and so forth. Um, and I did like the outcome. I mean, there were very few entire deaths. I mean, the only person that entirely died, two people that died were Miss Brummel. That was another thing. There was a shower scene where Stan was actually taking a shower, and Miss Brummel uh, comes in and says they're all after her or some shit. She had they'd tried to turn Miss Brummel, who was I guess the computer teacher, I guess, and she um, there was a moment where Stan grabbed part of her hair, and part of the hair and part of her head came off in his hand, and it dropped on the floor, and you could hear the smack of it, and that was pretty gruesome right there. That was just about as gory as it probably would have gotten. But I also liked the fact that they used the school bleachers at the very end to catch the monster. I've never seen the bleachers close that fast, so I wonder if they actually sped up the mechanism of the bleacher system just for that effect. Um, so it's definitely an entertaining story and twist. I love the fact that it was kind of an alien invasion along the lines of like the body snatchers, except in the shape of this creature that seemed to be have they seem to need a lot of water to survive. But in any case, one thing I noticed that Harvey Weinstein was actually somewhat behind this, and I know he's been in the news a lot with some of the things that he's gotten in trouble for. But I don't really care. This movie is a fun movie. It was well acted. I didn't really see any. I mean, uh, there are so many tropes that happen in this, and so many alien references. And there was a moment where Delilah said, "Hey Casey, when did you become Sigourney Weaver?" Things of that nature. But in any case, hopefully you enjoyed my description of this film. Like and subscribe to my page if you have not. Definitely check the film out if you haven't. I recommend this film to be at least seen, if not once. I've watched this film over and over and over, and I absolutely love this film. It is one of my favorite science fiction films, at least of a modern kind of a story, and I think it holds up really well um, from whence it came out, and it came out before Scream even came out. So um, it is kind of in between being a slasher um, of some sort. Um, so to me, it trims the verge of being slight slasher, slightly science fiction, and slightly fucked up. So, in any case, um, check out the film. Hopefully, you enjoyed my description. It's guaranteed to jack you up. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Thank you for watching, and I guarantee you'll have a blast with the film. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?